How you doing, guys? My name's Tim. Welcome to the first ever episode of the Advanced Performance Radio. Today on the show, we've got Dan England, Perth, WA-based dietitian, sports nutritionist, coach extraordinaire, owner of Team Ecto, and all-round good guy. Today, we'll be talking about nutrition, training, lifestyle, a few pitfalls that people fall into when first starting off their goals, and many other cool things. We hope you enjoy the show. Please subscribe in the button on the page, and we'll see you on the next one. All right. We're recording, man. So today I've got Dan England here, good friend of mine. I'm just going to get Dan to give a bit of introduction, introduce himself before we get started.
Yeah, so what's going on, guys? My name's Dan, obviously. I'm the owner of Team Ecto Consulting. So we're a hybrid coaching company which specializes in body composition and performance predominantly. Myself personally, I've been around the track for a while now, so coming up to 11 years coaching. So my qualifications are I'm a sports scientist with exercise physiology, and I'm also a nutrition dietitian, whatever you want to call that. I like the term nutrition. It just seems easier for people to understand because it's like, what's the difference? It's like I can work with people who have chronic health issues. Yeah. Other people can. So that's one of the easiest way to explain, but yeah, I've done a master's in that. Yeah. And yeah, it's pretty much me in a nutshell, really. I like caffeine. That's always a good kick.
That's a prerequisite, I think, for this industry.
Yeah. If you don't do 300 milligrams of caffeine a day at like 5 a.m., you're not a PT, straight up.
Sugar-free monsters for the win.
Yeah. I've actually tried the Blue V. Have you tried that yet?
I have, and I can't say that I enjoy it. I'm a massive fan of the White Monsters, man. The White Monsters are like on another level.
They're definitely there. But like, I like the orange one as well. That's not too bad. Like,
the orange one's decent. The green one's I know, even though it's got no sugar in it, it tastes too sweet. I find the green one. So
it's like it's tricking you. Yeah. It's like, surely you got something here. Come on, you can't be this good. You know, when something. It's kind of like in the industry as well. When something sounds too good to be true, it's like, hold up, like what's going on here?
It's like a hidden can of diabetes.
Yeah.
But all right, now, so I guess we'll get on to sort of the topic. We're going to really talk about nutrition today. With the Lewis working in the field, Dan obviously being a fair bit more qualified than I am, but still working in the field. So we're basically going to talk about what sort of Dan does with his clients. Nutrition is obviously something that a lot of people think is overly complicated, or this sort of alien-esque area that it's too hard for the general population to understand. So we're going to try and, I guess, shed some light on that and make it a bit more simple. What do you think is sort of the biggest sort of letdown with people with nutrition, what they do wrong to start off with in regards to it?
So for me personally, the biggest thing I see is if we're talking in two different things. So we're talking like the psychology of kind of nutrition, which I think is super important these days. Like everyone these days knows macros. They know how to calorie count. And let's face it, we're not human calculators. Like that's why there's websites and apps for this stuff. But what I feel is everyone is either all in or they're all out. And you'll probably see this as well with clients. Like they're either 100% on the money, tracking everything, weighing their food, not going out to meals, or they're the other end and they just don't track anything. They just binge all the time, and it's kind of like a one between the two. Whereas nutrition in reality is a spectrum. Like, you know, you can have some people who are intuitive eating, so they don't track anything. They just eat when they feel hungry, listen to their internal cues. Or you can have people where it's like, okay, each meal has got to have some sort of protein with it, some sort of plant-based for majority of your meals. And then like your hardcore guys who are like, we weigh everything and it's timed to the absolute minute. Which, you know, like for the upper end, like if you're athletes and stuff, then obviously that does become highly important. But if it's someone for like a lifestyle, it's okay to not eat according to the plan. Like, you know, one night of the week, you know, like eat with loved ones and stuff. And I feel for me, the biggest letdown is there's way too many people who kind of destroy that or like make you feel like you failed if that's happened. And it really upsets me because like we only have one life really. You want to enjoy it to a degree, but if you have a goal where it's like, okay, I'm trying to get leaner, I've got X event coming up, you know, then obviously you then shift along the scale to more tracking and more measurable because you obviously want to yield a certain outcome. But if you're a lifestyle, then, not eating 100 grams of chicken breast 3 times a day is going to be okay if you have, kangaroo or I don't know, something whatever Australian people eat, so that's where I kind of, and that's where I kind of look at it, I'm like, come on guys, it's, you don't feel bad if you went out and you had dinner with your loved ones and you enjoyed the moment, it's okay. Just shake it off and tomorrow's a new day, not like go fail and then have a 3,000 calorie binge on the nighttime because you quote unquote fucked up. And it's, I feel that's the first thing if we're talking psychology. And then if we're talking on like kind of a like physiology standpoint, I feel way too many people don't eat enough. That is the biggest problem.
I definitely agree on that one.
Yeah, like, you have people coming in and they're on like 12 to 1,500 and you're like, okay, and you want to get leaner, and it's kind of like I actually use this analogy all the time. It's like filling your car petrol tank or diesel tank or whichever one you have, a quarter of it, and then going, we're going to go for a full trip. We're going to go to Disneyland. And then your car breaks down and goes, why did this happen? Well, it's because you didn't have enough fuel in the tank to get where you wanted to go.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely.
I think we obviously on that topic of obviously convincing people to eat more, I think obviously women are, I would say, more guilty of this than men. I see obviously a lot of women are assuming that like the old 1,200 calorie diet is a way to go to look like a fitness model when it's not quite the case. I think like I've seen some like pretty scary nutritional protocols for women who are like trying to get that obviously like, I guess, fitness competitor or like athletic physique. And they're eating like 60 grams of protein a day, like no carbs, and then like a few protein balls scattered throughout the day to try and make themselves feel better about eating like shit. But
it's, we won't go into that because that's a rant waiting to happen there. I'll tell you. But it's kind of like you're selling yourself short there. Like if I always kind of like to, when I'm working with people, is I want to try and find that upper limit. I want to find that threshold where body composition doesn't change. Like I love that. I want to see something happen there, because that might be for one person, might be 2,500 calories.
Yep.
Okay. So you were on 1,500 before, you're now on 2.5. Granted, your physique hasn't really changed that much. You've got better energy, you've got better mood, like overall well-being is a lot better. But now we've added an extra 1,000 calories more a day. Hey, let's do a slight deficit. Let's go to say, I don't know, 15% of that. So we'll go 2,250 calories.
Yep.
For the sake of maths. Okay, that's a 250 calorie deficit a day. You're going to change.
Yeah.
And then we just kind of wait there until nothing changes. And then you do another little drop. And then keep doing that until you get to a low point in calories, which, most people, if we're talking like relative energy deficiency, is around 30 calories per kilo of lean mass.
Yep.
Or I just like to use the term 22 calories because obviously trying to work out someone's lean body mass is going to be a little bit tricky depending on what they use.
Especially working with online clients and stuff where you can't assess as easily.
Yeah, so I know we say once you kind of get to like that 22, and then that's kind of a bad area. You don't want to go below that. But that you might be on like 40 plus calories at that point. So getting to there is going to be, you should be pretty lean at that point. And if you're not, hey, we'll diet break or we'll go back to maintenance, and then we'll start another dieting cycle down the track when we're a little bit more ready to do it again. But you kind of look there anyway.
Now, do you think, obviously, like you were saying, you're trying to find, I guess you would call it the upper threshold of maintenance. With trying to find that, do you, I'm sure we sort of vibe the same on this one. It's, I guess, trying to get that person to a point where they have, obviously, as we said, a bigger calorie surplus to allow them to then take from the pool without the water running dry, so to speak. And it's, I mean, you see these people that want to come in and like, so I'm sure you've seen this with prep clients specifically, they come to you, want to start a prep and they want to just go straight into a prep without doing any sort of groundwork prior, or they want to do like a little weight cut or whatever it is. And then you work out they're eating like 1,300 calories and they weigh like 70, 80 kilo and they expect something to happen. And I'm sure with obviously seeing with women specifically on these really low calorie points, obviously things like menstrual cycle and stuff starts to be affected, and the body's ability to perform and like essentially what we're doing is we're trying to get them to perform, and we're asking them to train and try to gain muscle and look a certain way. And there's just not enough fuel in the tank for them to do so. How do you find convincing I'm going to go with just specifically women because they tend to be worse for it.
Yeah.
How do you go about convincing these people that they need to be eating more? Like, I'm sure there's a psychological barrier, specifically with someone who's either worked with like a real bro science coach with the old chicken and broccoli, or they've yo-yo dieted on every sort of style of dieting, like keto, low carb, high carb, carnivore, unicorn piss, whatever it may
be. Unicorn piss, I love it. I kind of look at it, I always say, there's a great saying for it. So athletes eat and train, they don't diet and exercise.
Yeah.
And if you want to be treated like an athlete, which is, you know, if we're talking in realms of preparations for anything, I treat all my clients as athletes. You know, we eat to perform.
Yep.
And we train to perform. You know, the whole objective is to push yourself in that point, you know.
Well, essentially weight training, specifically when you break it down to like a muscle part a day or like a push-pull split, you are essentially asking these people to be athletes. It's not just sort of, like you say, obviously you train them like it, but your clients essentially are, like, you're asking them to do a performance task. We're not just sort of asking them to eat better to support their normal day-to-day life. We're asking them to eat better to support strenuous exercise. So I can see where, like, obviously that statement for anyone who comes into the gym is valid, because it works, I guess, in synergy. Like, they can't come into the gym and expect to, especially if they're old, like they've been sitting on the couch, they're not an active person, they've never set foot in the gym before, they don't play any sport. And then all of a sudden they're asking their body to do an hour of strenuous exercise. And especially like if they're progressing and obviously they start doing like big compound lifts, like squats and deadlifts and stuff like that, the fuel's got to be there to support that.
Yeah. And you also, if we talk about in terms of training within itself, so training, you don't make progress in the gym. You make progress outside of the gym from what you're able to recover from.
Yep.
So if you are not fueling that recovery, then how do you expect to become better?
Yep.
You know, like the whole idea is, I've got tons of these things. I've done this so many. It's like, if you want something you've never have, you've got to do something you've never done. So when you look at it from that sense, is if I'm asking, say, me and you are training and we're doing squats, and it's either better control in tempo, one more rep, a little bit more load, a bit more volume, whatever it may be, you're asking your body now, okay, you've put it under some sort of duress.
Yep.
To become better, you've got to fuel your recovery. The only way we can do that, in short, is by increasing calorie intake, allowing for adequate amount of protein, and then obviously carbs to replenish from there, which thus will become calories anyway. But then you'll feel better.
Yep.
You'll recover better. And then the next time you go in the gym, you're going to then try and push yourself again to create another stimulus. And that's obviously what we know in terms of like progressive overload. That is how performance is. You know, you look at, say we use like sprinting, like Usain Bolt. You know, Usain Bolt's trying to beat his time every time he goes out on that 100-meter track. Do you think he'll do that if he's eating like, you know, poverty calories and going, oh yeah, like, you know, so he has to demand that intake and the recovery from that as well. And that's why he's one of the greatest runners to ever live.
What's the thing? Like, even, I think it was like Michael Phelps, for instance, eats like 10,000 plus calories a day to support how much swimming he's doing. I mean, and like, it's like, obviously both of us worked with martial artists and like athletes and stuff like that. And people actually spin out how much calories, even say a 60 kilo female who plays a competitive sport and then does conditioning training and cardio training, how much calories they need to support that activity to allow them not just do the exercise, but perform. You know what I mean?
That's it. It's all about performance. At the end of the day, you know, even if you're someone who's just starting out at the gym, okay, so like you said, you're on the couch, you haven't done a lot, and you go into the gym for the first time. That first session, you're gonna feel some sort of muscle soreness. You are gonna be doing things you haven't done before. So you're gonna want to fuel and recover that. So then the next time you go in, you can do a little bit better than the time before. And that's how you progress. You just keep doing that. And then what's going to happen is, amazingly, your body composition is going to change dramatically for it.
Yeah.
And you're eating more food doing that. It makes sense to do that. Yet, like you said, you know, Michael Phelps is like 10 to 12,000 calories a day.
Yep.
He trains a lot. Now, if we say that in terms of physique development or physique athletes who are trying to get leaner, you know, why can't we do the same with them? You know, give them a lot more food because they're going to be doing a lot more output. You know, and that's kind of the thing is, as long as they're still making the expectations or the drops that are required to get them ready for the stage or whatever they're doing, then you don't need to change anything. Just keep fueling performance going. We need you to train harder. And then obviously that's when you see a lot of great progress happen.
Do you see with what we're trying to achieve, obviously giving someone more calories and building them up and allowing to perform more, do you find that people are often falsely reporting the intensity in which they're training? I found some people, they get like, oh, I'm training 2 hours a day, man. Like I need more food and all the rest of it. And like you can see, and they really don't need more food.
If I always kind of look at it as like, you know, if you're training, like I call it, there's junk volume, you know, and you probably see like, you know, we could go in and we could train pretty hard for like 45 minutes to an hour, and that's us, we're done. I don't want to be spending 2 to 3 hours in the gym doing like fiddly little like pissy shit, to be honest. If I can get in, get the job done, and then I can go home and recover. And that's the thing. My biggest thing is I want to find the least amount of work possible to get the job done. I don't want a client in the gym for 3 hours. Like, it makes no sense to me. So because everyone has a life, like unless you're a professional athlete and you're getting paid to train, then that's a bit. Train as much as you want because you ain't got anything else to do for the rest of the day. But most of us have jobs to do. We have families to go to. We've got like external, just day-to-day life to live. If you're training 2 hours, I'm like, dude, you're either wasting way too much time and we need to pull your volume back because it's just a joke, or you need to go, okay, let's actually see what you're actually doing. Like, why is this taking 2 hours to do? What's the rest breaks like? What's the load you're going to? You know, what repetitions are we doing? Because obviously, if we're talking like strength-based work, then obviously they're going to have a longer rest break because they need to lift more load. Whereas if we're trying to do something, you know, a little bit more metabolic, trying to get a pump going, you don't need to rest 3 minutes. You know,
and with that as well, like I find with people with obviously working with that sort of intensity, like working with that sort of training level, they assume more is better. Like they think, oh, like, I mean, and you see people do it. I've seen people do it time and time again. I just spent 2 hours in the gym smashing legs. It's like, man, if you literally spent 2 hours smashing legs, like your body would not be able to handle at adequate intensity. Like if you came in, and I'm sure both of us can attest to this, you can destroy someone in legs in 30 minutes. You don't need 2 hours to get the job done. And with like one of the things that I've seen this as well with women specifically, obviously feeding into that low calorie range of the more is better routine. You see them doing an hour cardio, then 2 hours of weights and all this sort of stuff, and adding like excessive stimulus to an already quote unquote empty tank. It's just it's more of a negative stressor rather than it is a positive. It just sort of perpetuates that relative energy deficiency, like that for people to understand the term, for that lack of calories for the work that needs to be done. I mean, I've seen it, like even like, I mean, I'm sure I can speak of this. Like Eliza, my wife, does the same thing. Like last prep, so the one before last was do as much work as humanly possible, and thinking it was necessary, not necessarily because the quality of work she was doing. Like she trains hard, and like I've seen women that train hard, but they think
I know she trains hard.
They think more is better, and I'm like, okay. And she's then obviously not understanding the process of why she's not getting as lean as quick as she could be, and this is because she's adding too many negative stresses, and then obviously not allowing enough time to recover. Soreness is carrying over into like consistent days, and by the time you get to the weekend, your body's just stuffed. Whereas the last prep we put her through, finally listened and did just literally what I programmed for, and got way better results because she could spend way more time in recovery, way more time getting good quality food in, less time being excessively sore. And obviously with that excessive soreness, and then you mark in the low calories, sleep quality goes out the window. And I mean, it's just, you're a constant ball of stress, and just the process doesn't work. And it's hard to try and convince people to do this. And I'm sure you've seen this time and time and time again. How do you go about convincing someone that they need to pull back on the work and invest more in recovery?
More is not better. Better is better.
Yeah.
So I will look at it and go, what is an actual, so if we're talking in terms of like, training intensity, so obviously you could refer to like rate of perceived exertion, reps in reserve. I want to see what actually 10 RP is. I want them to know what 10 is, because we got to also look at it as super subjective in that sense. So if I put someone on, say, a leg curl, I want every single rep in that to be perfect. Like, there's no junk reps, there's no shitty kind of movement. Everything is executed to a standard. And then tell me after 3 sets of doing that properly, where you're basically squeezing blood from the stone, that you do another 2.
Yeah.
And if you can turn around and go, I can do another 2, then you're some sort of human freak. I love you. We should train more often because it's going to be fun for me. Yeah. But most people don't need, if you're doing the executions properly, the intent in the movement is there, and the load is adequate, you don't need to do a lot of work. Just do work well.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is, like you see all the time, like everyone doing like tons of like, if we're talking females, like glute work, they're doing like thousands of like booty exercises and stuff. It's like, okay, you did probably two exercises really well. The other 10 you did was probably nothing. You just wasted time.
It's just building.
Push that harder. Yeah. And that's why I say like more is not better, better is better. And it's kind of like if they're like, oh no, I can push it more, then I go, why didn't you? Why didn't you push that set more? If you knew you could, if one breaks down, and then that's you done.
On that note, do you think, obviously dealing with like, this is one thing I've just noticed with females, is they will add in a stupid amount of volume in terms of reps and sets, but are more hesitant to push the weight up. And obviously that in turn, I mean, you see people guilty of women doing leg press with like a 10 kilo plate either side for like 100 reps. And their argument is, oh, it burns. Like I'm going to be, yeah, but you do anything 100 times and it's going to burn. But I think it needs to be stressed when talking about guys about adding more intensities, that they don't just go, okay, I'm going to do another 6 sets on top of what you've already told me to do to make it harder, when realistically it should, as you say, an RPE. So for people that don't know, RPE is rate of perceived exertion. So essentially how hard an exercise is. So with an RPE of 10, that's like, okay, your soul's leaving your body. That's hard.
Yeah. You're crawling out of that leg press. You are done. And I go 1 set and you look at me and go, what?
Yeah. You're working harder than Clive Palmer trying to get into WA. But
pretty much, yeah.
And I think it is, it's like showing people what that intensity is required of. And like people who, get like, oh, I've been training for years. Like, yeah, I know how to train hard and all the rest of it. And then when you show them what an RPE of 10 is, okay, that's probably not what I've been doing. And
so
that's not for, I guess, not for lack of,
a lot of volume for that.
Yeah. It's not for lack of trying. Like, don't get me wrong. I see people come in, and this is sort of something I explain to people, is that the effort is there, the application isn't. So
it comes down to the execution of the movement. So it's going, say if we're going for a leg press, so we use the example of leg press, and we're going to target quads.
Yeah.
Okay. So our foot placement is going to determine that. Our stance, or how wide our stance is going to affect that as well. But then also there's a difference between stimulation and sensation. If I feel something burning, that's burning. I can also make it burn by putting DP on my quads.
Yeah.
It's burning. I'm not getting any sort of stimulation, but it's there, Whereas if we say use a 10 kilo for 100 rep example, what if we put, 25 each side?
Yep.
We'd be doing less load, or in terms of repetitions, correct? But it would get a better stimulation because we're now moving load adequately. And then I kind of say to people I'll kind of program, how I do it is I go, I want you to push the weight that you're doing until it starts to become cardiovascular in nature. So, where like, you're not really feeling anything like through your muscles or anything like that, but it's now your heart rate's going up and you basically are just doing cardio. It's just a form of cardio.
Yeah.
If you do cardio, go find a treadmill, go run outside, whatever you need, swim, whatever it is to get cardio done, that is cardio. Weight training is resistance. We're applying an external resistance to the body to cause trauma, to then allow our muscles to grow and adapt to that to become stronger and better. That is what resistance training is to me. So with those people, I don't, like, I might put it in as like, I hate like the term finisher, like, you know, at the end, of like reps or like leg extension or something, just to kind of just seal the deal and get it done. It's very far in view that I will do that now. I just find I'd rather just lift some weight with a person and just push them to, you know, when it isn't a higher rate of perceived excursion. And then I'm like, how do you feel? And they're like, man, I can't do another rep. Okay, show me. You do another rep. It's like, okay, you have more in the tank. Let's go. We can keep doing this, because there's got to be a point where you have to override the body and go, oh, I can do a little bit more, as long as the form is still good. And that's kind of the biggest thing, is people after listening to this going like, oh, Dan said I gotta just keep going, and it's like the form looks terrible, and it's like snap spines and like knees busting, and it's like, no, keep every form. So the execution, and that's what I was saying, execution and applications should still be perfect. Once it starts to break down, that's your set done, you know. But by that point in time, like rep 1 and rep 12 or 20 or whatever it may be, should look exactly the same. So it's standard. Because if I'm trying to create a stimulus or a stress on a certain muscle, I need that muscle to be the only thing we're feeling in that point, you know, if we're talking isolation movements.
And do you think that's like more common, I guess, in compound movements? Obviously, like when people start to seriously fatigue with, say, like deadlifts or a squat or a bench press or a, say, military press, when that technique fails and that exercise is no longer efficient for what we're trying to get out of it, I think people are guilty of trying to push that boundary, thinking that the intensity they're applying is being efficient, when they'd be much better to rest and then maybe perform another set with lower rep range, or then trying to push through, especially, I guess, I'm primarily talking about squats and deadlifts, because I think when those exercises fail, the risk reward ratio is just gone out the window, because you're trying to perform these reps, and that realistically, like, your quads probably aren't working, your hip flexors are probably working overtime, your lower lumbar spine's probably working overtime, and there's no longer an adequate stress on the muscles that make up that movement pattern. Rather than, like, I'm sure with like deadlifts and things like that, you see the spine starting to curve and the shoulders starting to come forwards, and they don't have that neutral spine anymore, and it ends up looking like a dog dragging its ass along the carpet.
It's in situations, definitely I would say we'd either do a back off set, so take the load down 20% and then work it until that point. But also as well, is I would also tend not to marry exercises too much. So if I'm finding, say, a person is doing squats and they're not able to push kind of past that boundary, and it's just, they get to say like rep 5 and it's just looking terrible. Let's move to another set, and rep 5 is kind of looking a bit scarier. I'll go, okay, we're going to take out the back squat and we're going to change it for something else, which is going to be similar in what the muscles we're trying to target. And then we'll reintroduce those down the track again, and we will find that we're able to lift a lot better, because we're not sticking to that and kind of like headbutting the wall going like, you will break through, because there's going to be points where it then might not happen. So that's where I go, okay, if say a deadlift is failing, okay, well, let's try an RDL. Let's try, you know, a good morning, something to try and strengthen potentially the erectors and, you know, the lats in the situation, to allow, once we then go back to deadlifts or even like a deficit or something, we're going to be able to push past that strength boundary. And then we're then still going to get the reward we want, but we've minimized risk dramatically. You see some people like, keep going. And like you said, it's, you know, the dog taking a poop spine, and it's like, just keep going. You're going to be fine. And the next thing you know, they go, I have a bulging disc. You go, well, you're now out for 3 months as a minimum.
And do you, obviously been working on gyms for as long as you have, do you feel like you see some PT/coaches, I use that word lightly, will allow clients to perform these sort of shitty reps to feed ego and to sort of convince this person that they are progressing, when realistically they're regressing and not making progress? They're just putting themselves in a position where like injury can occur. Do you see that a lot?
And it's kind of one of those, you got to look at it and it's like, part of me wants to go over and slap the trainer silly. But then the other part of me as well is going like, you know, yeah, there might be a rationale behind it or something. Really, there isn't. But I'm just trying to be the good guy and go.
You're trying to see the silver lining.
Yeah, I'm trying to see the diamond in the rough, and I'm going. And then I might, you know, just talk to him aside and go, hey,
when realistically it's just a polished turd.
Yeah, and we also look at it as like the back squat is probably one of the highest movements, but there's a ton of regressions to do it as well. You know, goblet squat, safety bar squat. You know, these exercises are still going to get the client to where they want to get to.
Yeah.
And now you've applied your duty of care, which coaches need, and we're now after the client. They're still going to get the result. Like I've seen it way too many times where like someone's went, oh, they've added 30 kilos to their squat and it looked like a convulsion. You go, I don't know. Like that was a nice twitch. It was cool. A knee bend in action, but unless they're like, you know, doing a quarter rep squat, you know, to improve power output from like, you know, terminal knee extension or something. There's no real, just do the full range.
but as you say as well, like I don't get sort of hung up on like certain exercises. Like I'm sure like the old, like really old school bro bodybuilder with like, oh, you got to squat to get big legs or whatever else. And it's just, you just see some clients who no matter what you do, no matter how much sort of technical cues and like sort of biomechanic work you do to try and get the person to squat, either their lifestyle factors, e.g. like posture and stuff, just don't allow movements like that without occurring too many negative side effects for the input. Whereas like, so for instance, like I've had one client in the past who just posture was just so bad from like years and years of like their chosen job, and trying to get them to squat with a barbell was just pushing shit uphill. So you switch into something like a hack squat where their spine's completely neutral, it's supported, they can still maintain that full knee bend and hit past parallel, engaged glutes and hammies without sort of having that negative stressor of like them feeling like they're going to die or not being able to get, or then getting disheartened that they can't get into the movement. Like I've had clients before where their arms are so long in comparison to their torso that deadlift's just, you. But you can deadlift pretty heavy and your deadlift technique is really good. So not quite you, but like you get some clients where they physically do, their anatomical structure just doesn't allow for those sorts of movements. Like no matter what you do, they're just not designed for stuff like that. Like
I feel on a biomechanics, so obviously biomechanics study of movement for everyone out there, is when we look at it, there's movement patterns can be altered by adjusting certain things. So like, you know, if we're talking, you know, a back squat, someone can't back squat because their torso just automatically caves in.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if we're trying to target the quads in that situation, we might put them on, you know, a front squat.
Yeah.
You know, get into a front squat if they can get into a, you know, clean position. If they can't, you know, we can use straps or tractor or something like that. It's going to then force them to maintain an upright posture throughout the entire movement, because if they don't, that bar is going to drop forward and they're going to tank. Unless they're doing something really crazy where they're like, I can save this, and they're like snapping out and they're trying to stand up, and you're like, no, you shouldn't have saved that. Like that, it was not fun. Like I heard your spine make bubble wrap noises. That was not safe. Then we got to go, okay, you know, we could do that. Or if they can't even do that because of the position, then we go, okay, there will be an issue with lat mobility. Let's mobilize your lats. Let's get some strength going in by doing a goblet squat. And then eventually we can then progress them to a front squat. Cool. Now we've got that working down pat. Okay, now let's put them into a back squat. Maintain upright torso, knees go forward, you know, and they're executing a back squat now perfectly. Might be an empty barbell at that point, but hey, you're back squatting now and shit's not hurting. That's great.
and I think lots of people don't want to be told that they need to do this. I mean, they just want to jump straight under a bar and do a squat, and like work with people in the past, and they do get quite frustrated. And it's understandably so. They want to just go and do the squats. They don't want to do the bench. They want to do the deadlift. And it's like, man, you've got so much like negative postural side effects from like either like lifestyle factors or genetics. They might have like a scoliosis or whatever else. And they do get quite frustrated trying to work through that. Like some people take a long time to be able to get into a squat movement, like a long time. You might have someone who, has like really poor mobility through their T-spine or the thoracic spine, upper back, really poor mobility through their hips because they're seated all day. They might be like an office worker. They might be whatever, they might be driving a truck, and they're trying to fight against that negative postural effects. And then they get quite frustrated with like someone like ourselves telling them, hey, look, man, like it's going to take us a while to fix what's broken. Like it's not just going to be a click of the fingers that we can go, but you sort of like lifting like Arnold Schwarzenegger, it's just not going to work like that. And do you find that dealing with that frustration from them can take time, and convincing them that obviously like what we're doing is we're laying sort of a foundation, like groundwork, so to speak, to allow them to eventually lift properly rather than just, I guess, putting a Band-Aid or like, plugging a hole in the boat while someone's still drilling holes in it?
Yeah, it's so I think it was Paul Carter who did this. It was in relation to nutrition, which is really, really cool. And if you walk 10 miles into a forest, you still have to walk 10 miles out.
Yep.
So if you've been doing these kind of habits and these postures for so long, it's going to take us probably that long to get you back to normal functionality. Now, in terms of programming, I do like to implement mobility during the sessions, which is something obviously we both learned off of Luke Lehman, where you'll do mobility work and kind of put weight through it. So doing like, if they have poor ankle mobility, okay, let's do some seated calf raises at the start of the movements to allow them to kind of like get that stretch and that, so improve that mobility during the session. So then eventually when we do get to the squatting pattern, they're not going to be as dysfunctional, and we're going to start opening up kind of like the hips a bit more, the ankles are going to be more mobile. They're going, wow, I'm actually squatting now. And so, okay, cool. I need you to keep doing this now because this was like Cinderella, By the time you leave here, you're going to turn back into a pumpkin. And I don't want that to happen. I want you to wear your pretty white dress. So we gotta keep at this, but by doing that, it's going to give them a great buy-in pretty much from the day dot. Because if I can look at a person and go, okay, I see these dysfunctions and these kind of issues that I see, either through their movements or, progress photos and stuff, and I go, I need to work on these. I'm then going to create a lot better of an athlete that's not going to have pain. And if they do have pain, they already know exactly what they need to do, because I remember when we did this last time, I had this problem. I'm going to go back and do these. And it's kind of like teaching them how to do it themselves, like DIY coaching. It's
almost like I use this analogy that I was trying to explain to a client. I'm like, we want to teach you so accurately what right feels like that you are automatically aware when something goes wrong. So that you have this like where all of like sort of your ducks are in a row and all of the heavens aligned and all your movement feels perfect. And the moment something shifts, like say for instance in a deadlift, if you don't have your shoulders like sort of depressed and your spine neutral, you'll notice straight away. Whereas previously that client could have spent 10 years deadlifting with a rounded back and never have known they were performing the exercise, I won't say wrong, but not as efficiently and not as safely. And you have them sort of, it's like a light bulb moment. You get someone who, like, say, for instance, has been doing an exercise wrong or incorrectly for a long time, and then you finally show them right. And most of the time, it's just a small cue to get to fix things. And then they're like, wow. And like, you can literally see the light bulb turn on, like old Homer Simpson with the fish bulb.
Yeah. It's exactly like, a good kind of thing is like, Rick and Morty, when Rick makes like the perfect flat floor and like Morty steps on it, he's like, oh my God, like this is heaven. It's the exact same thing. Like once you kind of step out of that, and that's the thing is you want clients to be able to know how to do this long after we're done with them. Like leave or whatever. You want to impart knowledge and education with them that they go, this is right, this is not right, or not optimal. And I know what I need to do now to bring it back to optimal. And that's kind of what it should always be with coaching, no matter what it is. Whether we're talking, exercise, chewing, the movement itself, or even like sleep, stress, they should know when their sleep is not right without even looking at a Fitbit.
It all comes down to being more intuitive in your body. Instead of just sort of like flailing about, you are more aware of what's going on in your body. And that's the thing. Like people who struggle long-term to get results, be that training, nutrition, whatever, are quite unaware as to what their body's doing, what it has done, and what it will do, because there's no sort of, I guess, pattern recognition with what they're doing. They sort of just like, oh, well, I'm just going to do a bunch of shit and then just sort of hope for the best. And then when you finally get them to be more aware, like saying, oh, hey, like I mean, for a really simple one, like clients having weight fluctuations, female clients, when it comes to menstrual cycle, they're like, and then you finally explain to them, they're like, oh, well, that makes a lot of sense. Like their weight fluctuates when they come to that time of the month, and they're like, yeah, that's because it's that time of the month. And they're like, oh, and it's like, they're just
light bulb.
They're unaware of what's going on. Or you could have someone that say like, oh, hey, my training felt like really shit today. Like, what was your sleep like? Oh, I didn't really sleep that much. And they're just like, and then you look at them, they're just like, oh, it dawns on them, and they're like, oh. And then eventually,
that's the job though. We should be able to just ask little snippet points and go, so what happened here? And then they kind of fill in the blanks and they're like, a connection, and go, oh, could that be it? And you're like, that could be it.
And like going back to our friend, Mr. Lehman, you should leave clients with more questions, not answers. So they're then probes to ask another question. So instead of them just going like, oh, okay, just following blindly, they want to know more, because it's, I guess, them showing initiative in their results, their body, and going, hey, I just don't want to just do what I'm told. I want to learn this process and understand the process. I mean, one of the analogies I used for people is like, when it comes to getting results, a lot of the time for people, it's like giving them IKEA flat pack furniture with no instructions. You know what it looks like on the floor in pieces, where you're like, oh shit, and what it should look like on the box, that like ideal physique or strength or whatever, but no idea how to transition from one point to the other. So you start whacking a few pieces here, they don't fit, and then you give up and you throw the thing in the bin, you swear, and then you go outside and drink yourself to stupid.
Yeah.
So, but
it's essentially that, you know, like at the end of the day, being coaches, we are just catalysts. We speed up the process by taking educated guesses based on the latest literature, so scientific literature, and also our own personal experiences with things, you know, because I coach differently to the way that you coach differently, which would be different to some of our friends in the industry, but it gets to the same point.
Do you think with that, like obviously us making those educated decisions, and I know we've sort of gone way off topic. We started on nutrition and we've just gone down the rabbit hole, which I knew would happen, man. Like two highly caffeinated people, I thought this would happen. But do you think that a lot of people don't communicate well enough when it comes to relaying information? Like they, obviously we need we're like machines. You input the data into the machine and we can punch out accurate results. Whereas if you come through and, oh, how was your week? Oh yeah, it was good. You know, and obviously you don't really get much out of them. It's very hard to continue making those educated decisions. And then you get people who, like, I'm sure you can attest to this, the people that get the best results through coaching ask the most questions, they check in religiously, they show initiative with their body and their results, instead of just going, okay, I've signed up with this guy now, so now I'm all good. I can just sort of just coast through.
We'll get the result now. Easy.
Yeah. It's like thinking that we're like Merlin or something and just can just like wizard the fuck out of things and make it work. But I mean, it's, you see people and they sign up, and I mean, then you just don't hear from them. They don't fill in check-in forms, all the rest of it. And I guess these are the same people that have been doing this repeatedly, yo-yo dieting, bouncing sort of from coach to coach, and sort of expecting things to be different, doing the same thing, as you said, and expecting a different result when it's not quite the case. Whereas when we get given like accurate information, we can then ask those, like you said, those little snippet questions, and then completely probe a whole new sort of avenue to helping those people, rather than just going, oh, here's a diet plan, here's a training plan, catch you, we need a new one, which is like the really old school method of like, I think the first coach I ever got was like 2008, and that's all I got was like, here you go, man, here's an Excel spreadsheet, try and make sense of this. Whereas now coaching's evolved to like us being like,
it's a lot more integrative. And that's kind of the biggest thing is like coaching now. It's back then it was exactly like you said, you know, you got a meal plan, you got a training plan. If you're lucky, your training plan got updated every month. If you're not so lucky, it was maybe every 6 months.
Yeah.
Now it's a situation of, okay, we have all this information. We're going to interpret this. Like you said, we punch into the computers, which is us. We can then make informed decisions based on the data that's present. And it could be as simple as, I ask a question, I'm like, how's your energy going? Yeah. If you have an energy drop and it starts to tank, I can guarantee your training's probably sucking. You're probably not eating as well, whether it's appetite suppressant, so you're not eating as much food, or you're not eating what your calorie values or anything like that if you are tracking. So then I could probably go, we might be overdoing it right now in terms of training. We might need to back off a little bit.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to make that decision unless I just ask that simple question of how's your energy, So I feel in the coaching industry, we've come a very, very far away. Like the guys who are doing it good are doing it awesome. They know the right questions. They can pretty much take an educated guess and they go, I think this might be the issue, but I'm going to probe a little bit more. Oh, hey, I was correct. Cool. This is what we need to do. This is the course of action to get you to where you want to be.
Yep.
And I feel those guys are doing it great. And then it's just the other ones who are not asking these questions. And like you said, it's your program, it's your nutrition, and it's not even nutrition. Here's your macros. You don't even know what a macro is right now. High five, I'll see you later. And it's like, you just paid $300 for that. Well done.
And I think with that one as well, it's not just asking the questions, but knowing which questions to ask. Like I'm sure you've had this, and I'm sure a lot of other coaches who have been doing it for a long time will ask clients questions. The questions like, what the fuck, man, are you inside my head? Like, how did you know that?
Yeah. Yeah. And you get it. And the people like, literally, are you a wizard? It's like, no, I just kind of know what to do. And here's my magic wand. We now waved it and hey ho, we've now solved the problem.
Yeah.
But you said it does take time and experience on the coach's side, both from an education point. So obviously knowing the right questions to ask, but then also being able to relay in previous past and go, last time this happened with one of my clients previously, this was the situation, this is what I needed to have done.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to take an educated guess, ask the questions. Oh yeah, we were correct on that.
And I think it's obviously when you sort of have compiled like enough clients, you work with enough people and you've seen sort of the patterns with people, and then you can ask those questions and it becomes a lot more streamlined. I think with us, like asking those questions, and like some people, I guess, when they come to coaching, people just don't want to ask them because it involves too much work.
It involves work.
But
that's what we get paid for.
Yeah. Or we become we become like a mixture of.
You go to a mechanic, and the mechanic goes, "Oh yeah, your engine's broken." And you're like, well, "How do you fix it?"
And then he hands you like a fucking a book on how to fix it, and you got to do it yourself.
Yeah, and go, "Here, you fix it." It's like it's not. Yeah, it's not the way, but yeah, I don't know.
But I think with that whole setup is that sometimes people sort of expect the world from the coaching process, and like I guarantee every coach has experienced this regarding from like basic through to advanced, and they expect us to, I guess, to be able to know all the answers without getting any sort of feedback off them through the process, or negatively, like I'm sure lots of clients have been guilty of this, of falsely reporting how their week has been going or their adherence to diet or whatever else. And I think
I'm pretty lucky in that sense. I have a really good rapport with my clientele. Yep. I'm honestly so lucky to have that. Like, if something's happening, something's going on, we can talk it out and go, hey, what's going on? And if they go, oh, it's a bit too personal, I don't want to talk about it, then I can go, okay, cool, I understand and respect that. I then will be able to interpret that they might not have had a good week, but I'm not going to bully them. I'm not going to go, oh, pull your head out, because at the end of the day, we are human. We need to understand that. But I always feel if you can't be honest with a person who's trying to help you, what are you doing?
But do you think that person in that instance has a problem being honest with themselves?
I think it might be more of a distrust in other people. So they have been hurt in the past by either another coach, someone in life previously, and now it's just they don't want to show the soft side of their belly. like they're like, this is my vulnerable spot.
This is my turtle. This is my turtle shell.
And then someone goes stat, and we don't want to be that as a coach, but it's going to take some time and rapport and just honest work with them. Go, okay. And that's kind of one of the things. I'm pretty blunt in regards to how I come across things. It's not a bad thing sometimes, but it does explain the point, and what you see is kind of what you get, like if I am emotional and empathetic to you, it's because I actually do care and I want to make sure that you are all right. Like I will go on a phone call with someone and we can chat for hours just to make sure that they're okay. So once I hang up, I know that they're going to be okay for the next week. You chat with them again or whenever the next communication I have with them. But it does take some time in that situation, and it's also okay to show that we are vulnerable as well as humans.
Oh, we are. We're human.
We're not robots, like, it's despite what people think, we run on caffeine, but that's just our power source. So
caffeine and inappropriate thoughts.
Yeah. So, but with that, that's kind of what we need to be. And, our clients need to understand we have their best interests at heart, like it's every single person we're there to make them, the best version of themselves. We're not there to ridicule or bully or make them feel small. We're there to help. And if they want to reach out and get that help, it's all they got to do is just ask.
Now, this is something I was thinking about that I really do want to bring up with you. Do you think, obviously, with the increase of like these online challenges and like being able to buy into these like women's challenges and stuff like that, where they give these meal plans that we've spoken about, like the really low carb, really low calorie, excessive amounts of work, do you think it sort of perpetuates this environment where these people feel guilty for not being able to stick to it, which then sort of, when they come to someone like yourself or me or whoever else, they feel guilty not being able to like work on something like that? And obviously, as we were saying before, with like the energy restriction with low calories, when you're trying to convince these people that they can eat normal food, they don't have to eat something that belongs in like an internment camp or something. It's they can eat normal food and be normal and still enjoy the process and still have fun with it, and that they really don't need to sort of put this negative connotation on that if they're not suffering or they're not like hustling or beast mode or whatever else you want to call it, that they're not getting there. Like I see it so often with obviously the rise of, and like I'm sure you see this because we've been doing this since before Instagram.
Yeah.
I feel so old. They obviously with this like influencers and all this sort of stuff releasing these programs, which they really shouldn't be. And like, this is one thing I can't stress enough, is that find someone that one is educated when it comes to nutrition, specifically like Dan. Work with someone who knows what they're talking about. Don't sort of just trust face value because this person looks the part, because I see it so often that these people come to another coach, they want to finally work with someone and sort of try to fix these problems. And they might have gone through some of these symptoms like lack of menstrual cycle or lack of sleep, poor recovery, injury. Even, I guess you could go to the extreme and say maybe eating disorders for some people who have like really pushed the boundaries. And these sort of people like these influencers like keep reinforcing this, like that's what I do. That's how I get my results. And realistically, they don't.
No,
they don't do anything like that. Like that person probably binge eats worse than anyone you've ever seen. But do you think it's just this negative sort of thing that's coming up in the industry? I wouldn't even call it in the industry because I don't class those people as industry professionals because they're not.
No,
do you think
it's so the way it's a lot of distrust, because what happens is, say you get someone who's doing one of those challenges now, they've got a really quick buy-in. So they're bought in, they're highly motivated, it's a certain time frame. I've got 8 weeks, 12 weeks, 4 weeks, 1 week, whatever, how many weeks the challenge may be.
Yeah.
Just got to stick to this. You get an amazing result. Okay. And we can't argue the before and afters are great. Okay. Yeah. But what we care about is the after. It's what happens the week after you've done that challenge. You can't, if I kind of say to a person when we're doing like plans and stuff is, can you see yourself eating or sticking to this for the next 5 years? If the answer is yes, then this is perfect for you. If you can't, and you're like, no, I don't think I can, then you should reevaluate whether what you're doing is actually going to be sustainable.
Yep.
Because as much as it's great to look phenomenal in 2 months' time, if we're doing the 8-week challenges and stuff, what you're going to go back to what you were doing before. So you might put on kilos and then more so. Now you go, okay, I've got something coming up. I need to lose weight again. I'm going to do what I did before because it worked, right? But your motivation isn't as great as the first time around because, you know, you might not believe in it as much, or you know what happens the next time around. So then you don't get as good a result, or you become a little bit more lax in terms of your motivation in regards to that. So now it's not working as well. And then what happens is you feel bad about doing that. And then you will keep jumping from challenge to challenge because short-term gratification is a lot happier than long-term satisfaction. So in those situations, then when someone comes to me and I go, okay, I'm going to bring your food up. And they go, no, you're not. Like last time I did that, I got fat. And it's like, no, we're going to do it in a very methodical, precise way that is going to yield the result that you actually want. It's going to take longer than 8 weeks. I'll tell you that right now. But, you know, I'm a coach and I have your best interest at heart. I don't want to see you in a year's track feeling miserable, putting on 20 kilos, and then you go, why did I even come to you? I want to impart enough knowledge to empower you and educate you so that you can make those decisions down the track. So when you see your friend at work who's on this detox diet or juice only or whatever it may be, you can kind of go, I don't think that's right. And then we can have a conversation on that and go, yeah, you were correct. And this is why it's not sustainable. You know, you get credit points around that. But I feel a lot of times those challenges, everything like that, they're in it for the before and after photos. That's how they get you in. You know, those before and afters look phenomenal. Everyone's super happy. And then I always say, if you're about to go in, try and contact some of the people who have worked with that person before and ask them, how did it actually go? And if they tell you hell on earth, then you should probably go, can I endure hell on earth, or am I not going to be able to? And then that's your decision.
And with obviously that whole concept, do you think it's more important for us as coaches and more important for a client to look for is for a client to be educated rather than instructed, so that we essentially educate them so that they build that foundation of understanding of nutrition and training and what's involved, rather than just instructing, here's a plan, here's a diet, I'll see you when you need a new one. And then obviously that person then gets to the end of, say, said challenge, 12 weeks, whatever it is, has had that high motivation, is part of the Facebook group, all that sort of stuff.
Part of the culture, part of the team. Yeah.
And then gets to the end is like, holy shit, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I've got no idea what I've just spent doing the last 12 weeks, because there's no sort of track record of what they've done. They've not sort of been aware of the process. They haven't been told, hey, with this process or this section of your training, we're going to do this because it's going to yield this, and this is what we want to get from it, rather than just going, here you go do that.
Yeah, and I think as well as the situation as well is we can look at it from 2 points. You've got people who are doing that and they just don't care, and they're like, cool, you're in it for 8 weeks, quick turnaround. We're already started rolling the ad campaigns for the next one.
Yeah.
Or you have the misinformed educating the uninformed. And this is where we get really, really bad information coming out in the industry of people who say they know nutrition. By the way, like doing a Cert 3 or 4 in nutrition is not knowing nutrition. It's you can tell someone the Australian Guidelines to Healthy Eating, and that's basically your physical capabilities, I feel.
I'll stop you for a second there on that topic. What should people look for when working with someone with nutrition? What should they be looking for out of a coach? I wanted to get this out of you because I want to drill this into people. I sort of know what your answer is going to be, but I think people need to know this, because the amount of people that come through and I guess get fed this line, like obviously you look at these, like as you say, these challenges where there's like the big nutrition section, all this sort of stuff, when realistically that person should not be giving nutrition advice or plans or whatever else. What should they be looking for?
I would say anyone with a graduate diploma or higher is what I would deem that to me is someone who would be able to tell nutrition.
Yep.
That's the thing, because at the end of the day, it's nutrition for me is not just writing a plan.
Yep.
I could get one of my brothers who might know a little bit about nutrition to write you up something.
Yeah.
There you go. You know, you now have a nutrition plan. Have fun. You know, like where as someone such as yourself, such as me, who have done the education and not also know the theory, but how to apply it in a practical sense. And that's the other big thing, you know.
Yep.
I could regurgitate, oh, this will do this to this to this, and talk the full scientific jargon. But I can't explain that or apply that into a real life situation, I am as useful as the monkey climb symbols together. I am not helpful at all. I just make noise.
I would still find you helpful as a monkey.
Yeah, I'd be like a Boo, I reckon, Aladdin. For sure. But that's the thing. So when I'm looking at these people and they go, oh, we're doing nutrition programs and stuff like that, and it's like, okay, what is actually the nutrition program entailed? Is it understanding that I am a shift worker and I eat at different times of the day? Is it understanding that, you know, I in the morning cannot make a fully cooked breakfast meal? Or is it someone who knows that I've got 10 minutes to get in and out whilst looking after children, and I might put myself last because my kids go first, you know? And this is where, to me, is knowing that higher understanding of nutrition, not just from a macro kind of perspective, but going, okay, this is how it actually works. That's when it matters.
Would you say it's not so much understanding the nutrition of the program, but more so understanding what to do when I guess that perfect storm doesn't occur and we have to sort of step away and make changes to, I guess, bring things, put the train back on the track, so to speak, and allow it to continue? Would you think it's more so that rather than just writing a plan? Like it's, because I've seen some people, I guess, who work with nutrition, and I will say this, I've come across some dietitians who work in a clinical sense, who then try and work with someone who's like, I guess, a Gen Pop client or whatever else. And they give them, I guess, this really clean cut, out of the textbook approach to nutrition. And there's just they don't see a face across the table. They see a number or data, and they don't understand how to make those two things coincide. But then with someone like yourself, who understands that process really, really well, and understands how to make that work, how to make it, how to make it integrate with people's lives rather than change their lives.
Yeah, and I feel it's a both to both of them. So it's, you know, when you write a program or you write a plan, you have to put it into the consideration of the person doing it. I could write probably the best nutrition plan ever in the world, but it's probably not going to work for, you know, a Gen Pop client who literally has minimal time, doesn't know how to cook things like very well, you know. So we have to take all these considerations into play when we're doing it. So like, we got to look at it and go, what can we do to actually improve their life, you know, because it's their life to live.
Yep.
You know, at the end of the day, it's, you know, I'm not going to turn around and go, no, you must have like this. You go, dude, I don't even know how to turn on my stovetop. Like, I can't do that. And that might be a situation. So we got to go, okay, let's work around that. What can we do instead? And that's when it then becomes like a client-coach relationship, and understanding that this is what's needed to make their life better. I don't want to be a hindrance. I don't want to be a burden to people and going, oh shit, I gotta go see Dan, or I gotta go check in today.
Yeah.
It's just been so hard to do this, you know. And if that ever becomes a situation, I say this to my clients, like, if something doesn't work, let me know. I'll change it to make it work, you know, because it's your life, you know. Like, if they turn around and go, what do you think? I'm going to go, well, what do you think? What do you think is going to work here? What that you can do?
Yep.
And then leave the rest to me. I'll get the job done for you.
I think obviously on that as well, with people, they feel guilty for not being able to stick to things, and then they will stay reserved. They won't say anything. And then eventually they'll fall off the bandwagon because people are human. Is it showing people more so that they can communicate and that things can be made to fit their lifestyle. Like you get some people like, I'm sure it's a really common trait. They will start a nutrition plan and they've got kids and they've got a partner chooses not to eat that way. Kids won't eat that way. Next thing you know, they're not on it. And then it's all goes to shit. Whereas if you'd gone for a more flexible approach to nutrition, and I speak about flexible in the term that we make it more, I guess, normal food rather than your very restrictive food that a lot of people see in dieting, so that it integrates, the kids will eat it, the partner will eat it. Do you think it's that's a big step in people sort of getting results, is learning that they can speak up and they can say, hey, look, this isn't working, man. Like I can't eat this, or I can't eat at that time of day, or I mean, I can only eat twice a day because like I drive a truck and I only get out of the truck twice a day. Do you think it's more so? And I guess that comes down to, I think, the clear cut difference between writing a plan and coaching.
Yes.
I get asked all the time, like, hey man, do you do plans? I'm like, no, I do coaching. It's plans don't work. Like just giving someone a plan and expecting to be able to stick to that plan for like however long just does not work, because there's no back and forth. There's no integration into lifestyle. There's no, like, as you say, coach client relationship. It's very robotic in a way, and it's not personal, whereas nutrition is personal.
Yeah. I don't do once-off plans for that exact reason.
Yeah.
If you want a once-off plan, I'd say people hire me for a consult. I will teach you how to do it.
Yeah.
Because if you're a once-off plan, it's like reading a map. You know, okay, you got to get from here to here, and you don't know the streets, you don't know the name. It's just all a bunch of squiggles, and you go in. Cool.
It goes back to the IKEA thing. So.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and we got to kind of look at it and go, well, you know, I would rather go to someone, okay, so this is your plan. Have a look at it. Is there any questions, anything you're concerned about right now? And they go, nope, everything seems good. It fits my lifestyle. I'm pretty happy with this. Yep. Okay, cool. We'll check in a week's time, see how everything's going. Yep. Everything's going great. They've made a few requests. Hey, can I have this instead of this? And I go, yeah, for sure. Like, we'll just make it work. And then eventually from that point, I will then teach how to flexible diet. Because I feel as well is, it's like kind of teaching someone how to program a computer. You know, if you don't understand the code and how to do it all, you're just going to sit there and have a nervous breakdown and eventually punch through your computer screen. You don't understand the numbers and everything like that. Like, we're not all built like Neo. We can't see the matrix. So having some, I kind of call it like semi-rigidity. So, you know, get in a plan, but knowing you can change things out and adjust things as you need to. And then eventually going, okay, now we've got your calories up high enough that if you do make a slight slip up, it's not the end of the world. Hey, this is now intro to flexible dieting 101.
Yep.
Rather than people going, oh, here's your macros, have fun. And you're like,
and what? I think with the macros as well, and like I've seen it, like I've worked with people in the past and obviously seen them come where they've been on a macro specific plan, like where it comes to structure the macros, they aren't sort of educators to like obviously how to structure their, I guess, I won't use the word good and bad fats, but like that they're more appropriate fat intake. They're good sources of protein, obviously protein spaced out evenly across the day. They don't know about carb intake and all this sort of stuff. And it then confuses people so much and makes nutrition look like this massive alien-esque concept when you, I guess, first work with someone who, like, you work with a lot of athletes. I'm sure a lot of those athletes, you can give those people macros and they're pretty onto it. They can execute perfectly. Whereas someone who's, say, a Gen Pop client, never dieted before in their life, giving that person macros is just like opening a massive can of worms. And if they're not prepared from the get-go with sort of the right information, and even still, there can be so many teething issues like, oh, hey, like, I've just eaten a full avocado. I now can't eat anything else for the rest of the day because I've just had 400 calories. So it's, I mean, it's
with that. I will build on it. So I kind of add tiers. So like tier one, I say, if I'm introducing someone to flexible dieting, I go, look, let's just start at calories.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of use the analogy of like spinning plates, you know, like with a stick and you spin it on the top.
Yeah.
You only have to focus on one thing right now, calories. Mm-hmm. You know, calories control weight loss. It controls the scale weight. Okay. Now we can argue whether like food volume versus, you know, more calorie dense foods is going to fluctuate that a little bit more, but that's a different kettle of fish. But if I go, cool, for the next few days, I just want you to focus on just hitting your calorie number. I don't care where it comes from. It's only a few days. Let's just hit your calories.
What would you encourage people to try to track their calories? And sorry to interrupt you, man, but what would you, in saying people trying to get the calories, what would you advise them on how to go about doing this? I know Luke uses Chronometer for a lot of his clients. Would you recommend something?
I'm like MyFitnessPal, Easy Diet Diary. Chronometer is great. I haven't used it a lot. I have a few clients that will use it. It's kind of whatever works for them, whatever's happening. I use Easy Diet Diary personally. It's Australian. It works with food works very well. So I use that one.
Yep.
But I'll just say to them, like, look, just track that. And then kind of the food choices that they do for that, they're going to learn very quickly. You know, like if you're on 2,000 calories and you eat a pint of Ben & Jerry's, oh shit, that's like half your intake gone for the day. Probably not the best choice of foods for that, but it did satisfy something else with them, you know, because it probably was a part where they're like, I just wanted that right now. Then I go, okay, how did it feel? And you're like, yeah, probably won't do that again soon though, because I was starving for the rest of the day because I wasn't able to hit these things. It's like, okay, we learn.
Would you say it's important for people to make those mistakes sometimes? Like with the calorie sections, like, and obviously like I've had some people like, we will include like say what's called like a free day where sort of like you say, you get given your set calories and you can sort of go and fill those as you wish, to have not so much a cheat meal, because cheat meals can obviously go right over that calorie intake that we've set. But the free day, one, allows the person to input foods they enjoy, and two, I guess, get a better education and idea of what's in food. I mean, you explain to people, like, I had a client who was eating like a full bag of trail mix a day, thinking that she was doing the right thing, and was legitimately,
because it's healthy. It's healthy.
Like legitimately getting in like 1,500 calories from trail mix. Do you think it's important for people to make those slip ups and get a wide awakening when it comes to what's actually in the food they're eating?
Yeah, I feel we're very, like, when you chat to someone, you go, how many calories do you think you have a day? And they always give you a really low number. And it's like, okay, how about we write it out, what you eat for a day, and then we'll enter it in together. So it's kind of like we're sitting there and we're going together. So it's not just me regurgitating a number. And I go, this is actually your calorie intake. And it's something like 2,600. And they're like, oh, wow. And it's like, yeah, so that's actually the reason why you might not be having a body composition change right now, because you're actually consuming 1,000 calories more than what was anticipated right now. But it's okay. We've learned from this. Now we're going to make some adjustments together to ensure that we are on the right path. Yeah. So I feel sometimes you've got to fall down, you know, as long as you pick yourself back up, I'm happy with that. And that's kind of thing is, you know, there's a Japanese proverb that says fall down 7, stand up 8, you know, as long as you go, and we've all done it. We've all slipped up. We're not perfect, you know, but we go, okay, you know, we learn from our mistakes. As long as you learn it, it's a learning lesson, and go, tomorrow's going to be better.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, I know what I've done this time around. I'm going to make tomorrow better. Boom. Happy days. And that's kind of how it should be, you know, in that situation. And then obviously the next level up from that would be then calories and protein, because we know based on research, whether you have high carb, low fat, high fat, low carb, doesn't really matter as long as calories and protein are met. So now we have 2 spinning plates.
Yep.
So as long as they hit their protein intake and they hit the calorie intake, I'm pretty happy. And that's kind of like what I say most of my clients is the entry level that I want them to be at. And then obviously the last spinning plate would be, then we take away the calorie one, and then we put carbs on, and then we put fat as another, and that's now tracking macros.
Yeah.
And from there, I don't really track fiber a lot with clients unless they have like a GI discomfort, because I just find like I want people to eat vegetables and have fruit. So I'm not going to go, you can only have 20 to 30 grams of fiber.
Would you say you're essentially trying to get people to essentially go over rather than go under? Because I know for a fact, I'm trying to get people to, like, with digestive issues, or like one of the oldest ones in the book is like guys in a bulking phase who literally spend their entire day on the toilet. Then you realize they're having like 5 grams of fiber for like 3,000 calories. And then you sort of, you figure out why. Would you say it's always a better option to try and, I guess, shoot for more rather than less with the fiber content, because of most people under consume when it comes to like fibrous veggies and fruits and stuff like that?
So the recommendation is normally around 10 to 15 grams per 1,000 calories.
Yep.
So I normally say I would aim for that as a ballpark, but if they're having ample amount of, vegetables and, fruit throughout the day, they're going to hit that very, very easily. It's just when you see people, like you said, the guy who's trying to bulk right now, and they just consume like burgers and, quote unquote nutrient poor food.
Mass gaining shakes.
And they're like, oh, it looks like, liquid coming out my ass. And it's like, okay, let's check your fiber intake. And that's when we then go, I want you to report that to me. And they're like, oh, it's 10 grams a day. Okay, well, it should be a minimum of 30 grams a day. I would like you to build that fiber intake up now to that. And let's just report how that goes afterwards, But yeah, again, it's you got to learn, you got to teach them this, and then they go, "Wow, I feel so much better." And I'm like,
and they actually start growing. Like for people that are listening, obviously you got your different sorts of fiber, soluble and insoluble, both have a vital part to play. With
definitely
the soluble obviously slowing down food through digestion, allowing it to absorb nutrients, and then insoluble, which is, I guess, bonds your poo together. So your toilet bowl doesn't look like a grenade's gone off.
Yeah, so soluble will slow down transit time and increase fecal bulk. And then your insoluble is what actually helps feed your gut biota. So that will then make a compound known as butyric acid, which is a short-chain fatty acid, which actually does help with energy as well, which is pretty badass when you think of that. Fiber gives you energy to do magic things.
Yeah.
So definitely something like that is something very, very simple that someone can do. And it's easy to do. But I normally say once we get to that kind of point, it's then we're tracking macros, but it's built into that tolerant point.
And realistically, we should have built up, I guess, those positive nutrition habits where they are consuming enough plant matter and vegetables, so plant matter and fruit. Whereas obviously, like a lot of people, when they first come to see us, that's one thing they don't hit enough of. So trying to obviously stipulate that they do need to increase, especially, and obviously, as we know, in a deficit, more plant matter is going to keep you fuller for longer. Whereas if you're just eating like protein, carbs, you're not going to be full for that long. So that plant matter.
And it's all about satiety index. Definitely, when dieting, you want to be as full as you can for as long as you can. And obviously, inverse relationship more so when you're trying to increase calories quite high. It still doesn't mean that fiber should be non-neglected. You should still focus on that. So definitely.
Too easy.
So
how much time you got left, man? Because you got your mats coming through.
I got to bounce now, man. Yeah, sorry.
Would you want to give a bit of a shout out to your business? I know your gym's opening. Do you have a sort of an opening date?
HQ's opening up soon. Should be in October.
Yep.
So fingers crossed. Just waiting for the last bits of my toys. So some are coming in now. So fingers crossed.
Yeah.
And if anyone wants to hit me up, Instagram's obviously the best way. So it's at @tan_teamecto.
Yep.
And then definitely from there, if anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out, and we can go from there.
Very easy, man. Thank you very much for coming on, being my first guest.
My pleasure, bro.
We tried to keep the profanities to a minimum, but
we did all right.
I tried. It's better than my usual effort. But,
I've seen your usual.
All right, too easy, man. Thank you very much for coming on. Enjoy your day.
Hey, take it easy. I'll speak to you soon.
See you, man.